horrifying end. That's what Bill Robinzine faced on September 16, 1982. The 29-year-old NBA player took his own life in a storage facility in Kansas City. He used carbon monoxide poisoning in his car. His wife, Claudia, found a note. She called the police. But by then, it was too late. Most people think they know why Bill died. They say his career was over. They say he had money problems. But that's not the whole truth. The real story is much darker. It's about a system that failed him. It's about lies people told themselves. And it's about how the NBA let one of their own suffer in silence. Bill Robinzine was born in Chicago in 1953. He was a 6'7" power forward. DePaul University made him a star. In 1975, the Kansas City Kings drafted him 10th overall. That was a big deal. High draft picks usually meant long careers. For 5 years, Bill was solid. He played tough defense. He grabbed rebounds. He scored when his team needed points. Fans loved his hustle. Teammates respected his work ethic. In the 1978-79 season, he had his best year. He played all 82 games. He averaged 13.4 points and 7.8 rebounds per game. His field goal percentage was .548. That was really good. But the Kings didn't keep him. They released him to make room for Reggie King. That hurt. Bill had given the team 5 good years. Now they threw him away like trash. Still, Bill seemed okay on the outside. People who knew him said he was optimistic. He stayed in great shape. Even weeks before his death, he looked physically strong. His former teammate Sam Lacey said, "I never saw any sign of it. Bill was such a beautiful person. Everybody liked him." That was the lie. Bill was falling apart inside, but nobody could see it. After Kansas City, Bill's career went downhill fast. The Cleveland Cavaliers signed him in 1980. He only played 8 games. His minutes dropped to 10.5 per game. His scoring fell to 4.1 points. The Cavaliers barely used him. Then came Dallas. The Mavericks gave Bill hope. In 1980-81, he had what people called a rejuvenated career. He played 70 games. He averaged 27.6 minutes, 13.9 points, and 7.4 rebounds. He was back to being a solid player. Maybe his career wasn't over after all, but that hope didn't last. The Utah Jazz signed him for the 1981-82 season. This became his nightmare year. His role diminished significantly. He fell out of Utah's rotation. He played 56 games but only started 9. His minutes dropped to 11.6 per game. His scoring fell to 5.8 points. The Jazz barely wanted him on the court. When the season ended, Utah didn't offer him a new contract. Jazz general manager Frank Layden was honest. He told Bill that any offer would mean less money. Bill had already turned down small offers to play overseas. He didn't want to leave America. He didn't want to accept that his NBA dream was over. Joe Axelson, who used to be the Kings general manager, tried to help. He offered to find Bill a job playing in Italy, but Bill said no. Axelson later said Bill was very despondent about the apparent end of his NBA career. That's when the real breakdown started. Bill couldn't handle not being in the NBA anymore. His wife Claudia said it best. He couldn't reconcile not being in the NBA anymore. Those words tell the whole story. Bill's identity was tied to basketball. Without the NBA, he didn't know who he was. The money problems made it worse. Bill was upset over financial problems. But here's the crazy part. His friends and financial advisors told him the problems were extremely manageable. The money issues weren't that bad, but Bill couldn't see it that way. In his mind, everything was falling apart. This shows how mental health works. It's not about facts, it's about how you see those facts. Bill saw disaster where others saw small problems. His brain was lying to him. But nobody understood that in 1982. The NBA in the 1980s was a different world. Mental health was taboo. Players were supposed to be tough. They were supposed to be macho about their problems. There was an unspoken rule to sweep it under the rug. Players had to hide behind a facade of physical prowess. Vernon Maxwell, another NBA player from that time, explained it later. He said, "I didn't want my teammates and my peers to know that I'm going to speak to somebody. Getting help meant you were weak, so players suffered alone." Bill was trapped by this culture. He couldn't ask for help. He couldn't show weakness. He had to pretend everything was fine, even as he was dying inside. The NBA had no mental health programs in 1982. No therapists, no counselors, no career transition help. If you had drug problems, you were on your own. If you had depression, you figured it out yourself. The league didn't care about players' minds. They only cared about their bodies. Compare this to what happened with drugs. In 1983, 1 year after Bill died, The NBA created the NBA Drug Act. This was because cocaine was everywhere in the league. Players were dying from overdoses. The public was angry, so the NBA acted. But Bill's suicide didn't create the same response. Mental health wasn't seen as a crisis. It was seen as a personal problem. One writer called Bill one of those broken toys that pile up in the basement of the NBA. That's how the league saw struggling players. They were broken toys to throw away. Bill wasn't the only one. Other players died by suicide in that era too. Ricky Berry died in 1989. Mark Petway died in 1989. There was a pattern, but nobody wanted to see it. On September 16, 1982, Bill couldn't take it anymore. He drove to a self-storage facility in Kansas City. He sat in his car. He used carbon monoxide to end his life. He was 29 years old. His wife, Claudia, found the note he left behind. She called the police and filed a missing person report, but it was too late. Bill was already gone. The basketball world was shocked. Joe Axelson said Bill was one of my all-time favorite people in the league and one of our most popular players in Kansas City. Coach Cotton Fitzsimmons was heartbroken. Sam Lacey couldn't believe it, but their shock proves the point. Nobody saw it coming because nobody was looking. The culture of silence hid Bill's pain, even from people who cared about him. Things are different now. The NBA started changing in the 2000s. The Dallas Mavericks hired the first full-time sports psychologist around 2004 to 2005. In 2011, the Indiana Pacers put a psychologist's office right in their facility. In 2015, the NBA began developing comprehensive mental health programs. The biggest change came in 2018. The National Basketball Players Association launched an independent mental health program. Players could get help without their teams knowing. This gave them privacy and safety. By 2019 to 2020, the NBA required all 30 teams to employ at least one full-time licensed mental health professional. They had to create written emergency action plans for mental health crises. They had to protect player privacy and confidentiality. Modern NBA players like Kevin Love, DeMar DeRozan, and Metta World Peace have spoken openly about their mental health struggles. Their courage changed everything. Now seeking help is normal, not shameful. But Bill Robinzine never got that chance. He lived in an era that valued toughness over truth. He died because the system failed him. His story reminds us that progress comes too late for some people. Bill's death wasn't just a personal tragedy. It was a failure of leadership, a failure of culture, a failure of humanity. The NBA had the power to help him. They chose not to. The culture had the power to support him. It chose silence instead. Today's NBA is better because players like Bill died alone. Their deaths forced change, but that change should have come sooner. Bill should have lived to see it. We can't bring Bill back, but we can remember his story. We can make sure no athlete faces their struggles alone again. That's the only way to honor his memory. That's the only way to make his death mean something. Bill Robinzine deserved better. Every struggling athlete deserves better. The system failed him once. We can't let it happen again.